All right. Welcome, one and all, to another magnificent Terran Tuesday. And we have a packed crowd with us today with a special guest, Nikki Brooks. Thank you for joining us today
Yay,
on
thank
this
you.
Hello,
warm
hello.
Tuesday down here where I'm at, warm for a sandwich. But we have a magnificent topic to tear into that I think we could all actually have a great perspective on, and that is the struggle and survival in life and literature. How fun! But before we start that off, I want to see how all of our hosts and guests are doing. Start off with you, Black Knight. How you been? What you been working on since last time we seen you?
Well, you know me. I usually do some extensive edits and reformatting on Tuesday, but today I did some recycling, meaning I carried and carried some old appliances to a center nearby, and then I finished another chapter for the new series, the new Terran Tuesday series, Lost Numbers. Sadly, I wasn't able to write a new poem because I was pressed for time. But hopefully, in the next few days, I will be able to do it. Otherwise, it's the weather was fine here for a change. Finally, um, we had a little bit of rain in the evening, but otherwise, it's getting warmer. Finally,
Yes, the heat's been taking its time coming this year. But how you doing down there in Texas, R.H. Snow? Is always something happening.
Well, I've spent all day long working on tornado activity. So I'm the Skywarn coordinator for my county, and I've been having to update the local weather net since we actually live where the radar doesn't go all the way down through all the layers of clouds because we're actually at a crossing point, and it sort of makes a peak over the top of my little county where we live. So we rely heavily on storm spotters to tell us what's happening on the lower levels of storms. And we had some very exciting moments today as we had a couple of tornado warnings come up suddenly. Actually managed to get a little ahead of it, which is awesome because I have wonderful people that are working with me on my group with radar. And then we, of course, told the National Weather Service what was happening. They put the warnings out for us. So it was a successful day, but we still had some damage just down the road from us. And so I've been taking in damage photos where it tore up a local like flea market, and everybody's really upset because that's where a lot of people get their chickens and get all their little goodies and stuff. So it's been sort of a day of struggle for me. So I'm on my second cup of coffee now. Yeah.
Well, you definitely chose the topic, so I'm sure you have plenty to add into that. But
Yeah.
Nikki Root, sorry about that. How are you doing today, and what you working on?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I got my garden planted last week, so very excited about that. And then next week I have jury duty. Not so excited about that. And I've been working on my second murder mystery novel. I've got the cover art done, and I'm just going through the final revisions on it. So hopefully that'll be coming soon. I'm excited.
Oh, very exciting! And who knows,
murder
pulling
mystery.
maybe you'll be pulling some information from that lovely stay in court, trying to survive the jury
There you
duty
go.
process. Hopefully.
Yes, anything can be used.
It's research.
That's right.
Yep.
Indeed, but let's go ahead and tear into this topic. R.H. Snow, you chose it, and why don't you open up for us? You always have magnificent monologues.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm monologuing over here. That's what a villain does, I thought. Okay, so I had an interesting encounter this week on Twitter and X, whatever you want to call it. Very was eye opening, and I won't say who it is because I'm actually praying for this person. She was talking about how TradPub was, there were certain things you could and couldn't do in TradPub. You couldn't choose your covers, you couldn't choose your titles, and she was explaining it to her followers of how this works in TradPub. but she was very much involved in Trad Pub, wanted to talk specifically about that. She's working in the industry. And I just kind of chimed in on the side, this Trad Pub, and she had even said Trad Pub's not for everyone because of this, and only certain people can be in it because they're willing to change their stories or go along with what their editors and other people say, which is not a bad thing always. But so I chimed in and said, well, Trad Pub is not for everybody, and it's not for me because I couldn't give up the story I love so much to sell my soul for just for fame. If the story is changed beyond recognition, why do that to my story I love so much? And of course she was sort of, I think she was trying to be snarky, but I sort of missed it because I thought she was really sincere. She was like, wonderful, I hope you have a great time in Self Pub and you go make that money. And I was like, yes, I'm trying right now. And I sort of, back and forth a little bit. And then I realized she was actually very upset. And it says, well, you have to make money. You have to do this thing. I said, I'm climbing the mountain one step at a time, and I'll see you at the top of the mountain, is what I said. There's paths to both can get there. And she said something striking, and it really bothered me. She said, I'm never going to get to the top of a mountain, and I wouldn't want to be associated with anybody who assumes they will. And then she blocked me. There was such a pain in it, such a bitterness. And I was actually like, I wanted to reach out and say, I'm praying for you. You don't have to give up the top. Everybody has their own mountain. If you make your mountain what somebody else's mountain is, if I made my mountain about making money, because she said, I have to make money, I'm not going to succeed at that one. I have my own mountain I have to climb. It's right in front of me. If that was my mountain, if that's what was given to me, that I need to go make money for me and for other people, and this is my course in life, I would already know that. I would know that's what my mountain is. But I am keenly aware of what my mountains are. I am keenly aware of each rock I have to climb. And I can't make my mountain hers. I can't decide I'm going to go climb her mountain. We all have our own mountain. We have to conquer it. If we get distracted by, I need this other thing that I've got to do this, we'll never conquer our own challenges. And we need to be able to embrace the struggle that we have as authors, and as the characters in our books also face these struggles. We often find that our characters reflect a certain struggle in our own lives. Sometimes it's deliberate. We say, you know what, I'm going to write about this thing. It's part of my life. I want to put this in my book. There's other times that as you're writing, you'll find that you look down and you realize the character is doing something that you have been through, that they're expressing a deep emotion or a deep pain that only a person who has been through this journey can actually express it. And you understand that you're sharing this. And I think that our stories can become richer and fuller and more resonant if we do incorporate our own emotional struggles, our own physical struggles into the stories we write. We don't have to make it about us, but we can use that to help us connect with our character and bring them through something in a very authentic and real way that will resonate with our readers, who also are dealing with their own struggles and their own challenges. And if we don't do that, we're missing an enormous opportunity for us to grow, not only as human beings, but for us to grow as authors as well.
Oof, very interesting. Yeah, I like that part where you said we all gotta face our own mountains, kind of set our own goals. What do we want to achieve with our writing? And for myself, I know writing is more, I don't want to say a hobby, but it's a way for me to get the stories I have out there. So my own goals is more so just to get them out there, get them done. I am a graphic designer by trade, so making PDFs, getting them all looking pretty with covers and all that, for me is very easy. And my own goal, like I said, just getting those PDFs in people's hands, growing the audience slowly. And, if I do end up getting this big audience for these short stories I'm writing, good for me. But overall, I like my career. I like the trajectory it's on. And this is the ultimate life hobby. So my own personal mountain would be to get as many of them out there. And the struggle is to keep my mind focused on writing. Because if I were to say one thing probably about this group here, is probably I'm the one that has a harder approach towards writing, because I was never a reader to begin with. It was a methodology for me to kind of economically get my stories out there, because it was just continuously pulsating through my head. Thought, okay, writing's how we're gonna start off and get that train going. And that process has been good. And that mountain has been difficult because I had to learn to become a reader. I had to learn to appreciate reading and different forms of writing. And I think I'm going on 3 years now, and it's been a interesting on and off process, but mostly on. And lo and behold, the sandwich before you.
All right, who's next?
It's an open microphone, people.
Yeah.
Gonna poke,
Well,
poke.
I really like what you said about being resonant with our readers. I think for me, that's the mountain. I really want to, like you said, use my experience to try and help bring the character through something, and through that, bringing the reader through something. I think that is the whole really purpose for me of stories, is to connect with our fellow human beings and inspire them and get them to exercise their imagination. There's so much power in the imagination, both as writers and as readers. We can inspire each other, and continue to grow our imaginations. There's so much, power up in our brains that I don't know that we tap into to the, depths that we could, because we have so much going on in life. And stories are that way that we step out of the busyness of our lives and go into that imaginary world where anything can happen, where there's heroes and there's struggles. And I think that helps translate into our lives too. Like, if this hero can make it through this situation, then maybe I can make it through whatever situation I'm facing today. Like, maybe I can make it through this whole tornado warning thing going on.
Yeah, literary inspiration. I think we've all been touched by a fictional character here, there, a literary character that we otherwise would not have ran into. And we actually got a question for you, Nikki, and that is, what is the name of your book? And you know what? We didn't really give you a time to talk about what your literature is. Why don't we dig into that a little bit?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So my first book is called Taming of the Fire Sword, and it's a science fiction novel it's kind of like my Star Wars, based in another galaxy.
Ooh.
And I like the fantasy elements in science fiction. So we've got magical swords and witches and an evil empire, all that good stuff.
That is awesome.
That sounds like my alley.
Yes. And oh, by the way, I love that poem I read of yours. Keep those poems coming. They're so awesome.
Oh yeah, he's not extraordinaire.
I'm just an amateur. Although I have been known to write a good one from time to time. But yes, it is indeed one of my most favorite things, so to speak, to write a highly inspirational story, be it the characters themselves, who are going through all sorts of dangerous or simply hard things in life, even though they may be living in a fantasy universe with magic, dragons, and whatnot, or on a spaceship, like in my main series, the Star Shutter series, and they have nearly magical technology, and some of them can wield space magic of various kinds, like let's say the Guardian, who comes from another dimension, and he's perhaps a favorite character of many, can wield the force of Odin, though it's a bit different. So, and you also have telepaths, who many would call mages. And then you have this deep force of which is the universe itself, and certain people, certain individuals can communicate with it. Of course, you have ghosts, and you have monsters, and you have um, all sorts of things. And this is a perfect, almost perfect. I will not say that it's completely perfect, because no one is perfect, and we all have our faults. But it's a great scene to have, like, especially, and I'm talking in general, not just my one of my universes, but all of our universes. It's a great scene to uh, put many of these characters through a whole range of difficult quests. Many would sometimes mirror the hardships that we have endured, or our friends, our loved ones have endured in real life. But as Nikki said, it's a way for us and them to train our imaginations, because our imagination is perhaps one of the mightiest muscle of the mind.
Ooh, that was very poetic.
Muscle of the mind. Yeah, that actually reminds me of this.
Flex it.
It reminds me of this study I heard some years ago, where they took a bunch of like Asian calligraphy and they put it before a number of people, and they kind of just showed them one by one all this different calligraphy. Then they'd bring them in like a handful of days later, and they tell them to try to match the calligraphy that they seen before, pulling out the ones that they seen before, and they'd get like 100% wrong all the time. They weren't able to point the calligraphy that they've seen before. So they tried a separate methodology where instead they asked them to point towards the calligraphy that they liked, and they happened to pick out that calligraphy that they seen before, that their mind recognized. And that got me thinking about like the power of these stories, these fables we tell, particularly those about the struggles of life embedded within them. I think one of the most popular ones in the West is probably Spider-Man, because if you really look at Spider-Man, it's this dude in these skin tight costume running around as a spider, shooting webs, fighting like an octopus man with tentacle arms, metallic tentacle arms. And I'm thinking to myself, if you read between the lines of this story, that stuff is maybe 40%, and most of it is about a boy growing up as this weird kid while being rejected by this girl he lives next to, while at night being this epic superhero everybody adores, and the struggles of how that actually costs him. And I'm thinking, this story is something that has the power to affect people. It's a fable in itself. It's woven with these trials and endurance of those who choose to give of themselves behind a mask and get zero credit for it, and having to endure a life well at night, having to try to save the world this person knows. So, when I think of imagination, when I think of these stories, they're really one of the greatest forms to encapsulate ideas and experiences, to break through cultures and barriers, and also allow them to resonate in a much easier delivery system.
I think that you hit on something here. One of the reasons that Spidey is so popular is because he's very vulnerable. When he's not Spider-Man, he's just Peter Parker. And not only is he just Peter Parker, he struggles with anxiety like any other teenager does, but he goes through this extraordinary event with Aunt May, with Uncle Ben, and he's forced to become a man overnight. And he struggles with how he can deal with his own feelings of inadequacy and responsibility, and at the same time to become the hero that he's supposed to be. And he has that dichotomy that a lot of us have. We're a hero in one place, and in another place we feel like a total loser. You can be fantastic at work, and then you go home and you close the door and you're by yourself and you feel like, gee, I'm not really that great at this, am I? Or you might have a great family life, but you're dead broke all the time and don't know what to do because it's like, every penny is a struggle. There's always something. When people read our characters, they want to not to be represented so much. They want to understand them, though. They want to have something that they feel like they understand what this character is going through. If their lives are perfect, if everything is absolutely the way it should be all the time, that's not a hero. That's a cardboard cutout. And it's easy to fall into that trap where the hero is just constantly good at everything and he, wonderful all the time. This happens a lot in romances where the white knight that rides in has virtually no vulnerabilities, or the classic damsel, whether she's a strong woman or a damsel in distress, will be perfect in every way. She has no struggle. There's nothing there and it lends depth. But beyond lending depth, it lends empathy. Our readers want to be able to not necessarily see something of themselves, but they want to know that this person isn't just a fake. It's not just a cardboard cutout. It's somebody real. And they don't have to have had that same shared experience to have the empathy for them. But it certainly helps us if we have a certain amount of understanding of what our characters are going through. And we can imagine what a character might be going through. There's things we write for our characters that we will never possibly go through. I am probably never going to be attacked by a chupacabra, and I say this guardedly because knowing my back pasture, it could happen, and I wasn't waiting for it. But there are things that feel like chupacabras in our life. We all have our own chupacabra, the thing that we haven't yet encountered, but we know what it might be. We can understand what it might be like. And if you have that in your life and you can explore that and mind that feeling, if you can describe it in such a way that you are allowing your character to grieve or to become angry in a way that's realistic, you have to be able to have that experience somewhere in your life. And it doesn't have to be something big, but you need to be able to, for you to be able to point to it and say, here's my rage. Here's where I actually experienced this rage. So powerful that it almost made me black out. If you haven't had a red moment blackout rage, where the eyes turn red and everything fades around you, and you're ready to go to war with someone because it's that important, then it's really hard to write it unless you've been there. There are physical things that happen to people when they're very, very angry. There's also physical things that happen to people when they're grieving. And a lot of people have a very difficult time writing a love story if they haven't actually experienced heartbreak. It's something that we have to weave in, and it is a different thing entirely. To mourn the loss of a child or the loss of a parent is a different kind of grief. It's something that never gets healed because there's no way to fix it. So it stays there. We go through that grief. We don't ever get over it. We don't go around it. You go through it, and you carve that pathway through the valley of the shadow, because that's what we have to do is when we're grieving. But the loss of love is very different because something could have fixed it. Maybe it still could be fixed. When you have a heartbreak from a betrayal or abandonment or just loneliness, or maybe it just didn't work, there's something that we think we might be able to fix it. And so there's an anxiety behind it that is utterly devastating, because you feel like if I just do the right thing, maybe this will change. Maybe this suffering will end. And so there's a particular edge to the knife of heartache with a lover that transcends any other grief, because it is something that we could possibly fix. Even when they go off and marry someone else, or we see them with someone else, If I just do this right thing, if I just wear this one thing or do my hair a certain way, or if I lost 20 pounds or whatever it was, if I could just do this thing, or if I just did that before it all went south. That pain is hard to describe unless you've actually been through it. Having been through it, having reached over to touch the page to understand that the affair happened, I can tell you now that it's like a death, that it hurts like a heart attack. And you actually think, I'm going to die from this. My heart's shutting down. And that happens with most griefs. But the difference being, can I fix it? Is there any way to fix this? It doesn't have the mercy of death is done and you're over and it's all gone. It's just one day things change and you don't know why. And so these sufferings, when we explore what we've been through and how it affected us, it helps us as writers to create that moment. So when somebody else reads it, it either affects them in such a way that they realize that there are people who have been through the same thing and have survived and have gone on to live their lives, or that it might inspire them to have an empathy that they otherwise would not have had, to understand what it means to be on the other side of this event. And when we do that, we have created a higher calling in the work, beyond just the fun and the adventure of the story, because we want to have that. We talk about it a lot, about people sometimes make it too serious, that they're constantly involved in trying to give a message or to preach something. We don't want that to happen. But if the moment occurs and the veil lifts and somebody sees something they weren't expecting and it changes their life for better, then we have created that moment in someone else's heart. We've actually shared our experience and made something happen that can possibly help them to make better decisions as human beings. And if they get that out of a great story, then that's fantastic. And that's what we want to do as authors. And plug yourself in, explore that pain, and let it create something for your readers.
I love that. And I think sometimes it just comes naturally. Like we don't even realize we're doing it as we're writing a story, but then we'll find we're actually drawing on this experience that we had and it comes right out on the page. I also think that goes to that old saying, write what you know. I mean, obviously, we're not going to fly on a spaceship in the galaxy, but we have experienced different emotional events in our lives. And I think that can be put into any story, no matter what the setting is. That's the human connection part of it.
Yeah, it's you need to go out and live life. Perhaps not like uh let's say jump into a bar fight, stabbing people or hitting them over the head with the chairs or something. But you should definitely experience stuff. And the more you experience, the perhaps if you could find the best way to convey that through your characters, your story, and of course the world building of your universe, the it's the better for your readers. And I discovered that early on, when I asked different old people about their lives, and I'm talking really old people.
When you all of a sudden you're trying to, oh yeah, like not, it's not our age, it's not her, really, for real, it's not our age. Go ahead.
No, it's I was talking about like
Then you realize how old I am, and you're like, I can't say that now.
That's funny.
No, it's okay. I'm laughing at it.
But you're right. Experience does come in handy. Here's a fun one. I know what it's actually like to be knocked out. So guess what? Whenever one of my characters gets knocked out, I have a very great source to pull from. And then now when I'm reading other people's characters getting knocked out, like, this person's never been knocked out before.
Oh, really?
That sometimes I think it's like therapy too. Like I'm never going to get in a bar fight, but sometimes I want to.
Oh boy.
Okay, well, you want, okay, this is from my personal, okay, so y'all know, if any of y'all know me, I'm 4'11". I'm pretty much, like I said, just a chubby little bonbon. I've always been that way. Just right down here. Me, I've been in fights. I don't know why.
Wow.
No, I got bullied in school. That was a whole nother journey, and I thank God for it. It changed my life too, in a different way. I wouldn't have wanted it, but it turned out that it was actually great training. And so I ended up with a gang actually beating up on me, broke my nose at school. The teachers did not intervene. Here I'm this little bitty gal. We're new in town, and they literally broke my nose and left me lying bloody. And I jumped back up and I hollered, "Come back and fight me!" And of course, they weren't going to do it because they're laughing. But I changed who I was. It changed who I am as this human being, because I found out that I had it in me to get back up.
Mm.
And I think that is it, and how we fight. It really does make a difference. And most of us will never be in a fight. And I say that kind of, I'm saying probably, okay, maybe we'll be in a fight, but it won't be like a fist fight. Women do fight a little differently. They can wail away on you, but there is a lot more likely to have what I call the hair snatching or the earring snatching. If you got earrings on, you make sure you take them off first, because they will somebody reach up and grab that thing and they'll tear it out. Oh, it's terrible. So yeah, and having been a teacher for a little while, I actually jumped in on some fights with at schools. So yeah, getting wailed on can really change your perspective on fighting. I don't know how you overcome that except go get in a fight, and that might land you in jail. So Nikki, don't do it. James, have you ever been in a fight?
That's why we have writing. It's our outlet. Safe space.
I've been in the fight, though I should say when I got knocked out, it wasn't due to fighting. It was a completely separate thing. But I've been in fights before, scraps and whatnot growing up. But yeah, like experience, it all comes in handy. And not only experience, but research as well. Research has definitely come in handy, especially with the resources that are available today that you can easily pull from. It's pretty overwhelmingly easy to find stuff, which is pretty ridiculous compared to just a handful of years ago. But yeah, to your question, I've been in about maybe 4 fights in my day, but they were all when I was in like high school, so it was a while ago.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That's sort of a dude thing, I guess. It's like a
dude thing. Yeah, maybe.
Fight.
The good old fights by the locker room. That's where they used to break out when I was in high school. There would always be at least once a month somebody would be fighting around the locker room, and everybody would just gather around and watch.
I know, yeah. It's just, well, that actually, working around guys, they do have a tendency to do that. They'll pop off. They'll fight with each other. There's a certain kind of fight that you get over. Like they go into fight just to show who's going to win, and then they move on. It's like it's not there to kill somebody. You're just there to let it all out and get it taken care of. And when that happens, it's sort of clears the air. If you're not completely damaged from it, then everything's cool. And then of course there's the fights that people are like, you know what, I'm coming after you because I'm going to hurt you, and that's a really a really scary place to be. And that's kind of the fights that I've been in. So it makes it gives me a little bit of a different perspective. And the weird part is I was actually really blessed because my dad had trained in unarmed combat when he was a Ranger, actually during the Korean War. And so he tried to teach me. So I've been in sparring matches where it was kind of cool, and I got a chance to fight people and to have fun with it, to actually go, this is great. I've got the pads on and everything's awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. When those pads come off, it's really kind of scary though.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I accidentally hit my the power cord, my computer.
Oh no. No.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Have you ever been in a fight, Black Knight?
Yes,
Okay.
I was.
So it says it. That's great.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
So
And go ahead, Snow.
No, I want to know how, because this is how I learned. So tell us about your fight. How does it change the way you write fights? When you've been through one, how does it change the way you write about it?
Well, yes, it does. It's the probably the main thing is that you learn about pain because you're getting hit. It's impossible to not get hit, and it's also impossible to not to fall on the ground, and the ground is not soft. The ground hurts. You're also going to be bumping into things. You're going to be in the worst cases, you're going to get really hurt, maybe stabbed, maybe surrounded, overpowered, and even if you have like many years of, let's say, martial art, like self-defense knowledge and training, you're still gonna get overpowered. No one is impervious to the tire iron or the chair over the head or the bat or whatnot. It's humans are squishy. Yeah, humans are squishy. This is where you learn about pain, and you understand that most of what Hollywood shows you, and most of what these, well, especially the modern screenwriters, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they show you something which is it's no longer a thing that people could connect with, and I mean, yeah, you have like these super modern action flicks where let's forget the thing about the never-ending bullets rounds, but you have people who easily overpower 10 or more opponents, which few, or like in the best case scenario, 3 will be nearly impossible. And yes, I've been on the receiving end. I've been jumped in my youth, and I learned pretty quickly. I learned that the pain is perhaps even when you punch someone or kick them, you're hurting yourself.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, and when someone says like, "Oh yes, I'm going to disarm the knife," blah blah blah, or like block the knife, or do this some fancy self-defense bullshit. This is absolute insanity. People can, even untrained people can stab with the knife with such speed that it's insane. This is not a demonstration of some McDojo sensei in quotation marks, who has his obedient student attack him or her with a rubber knife. No one is going to, like on the street or anywhere else, no one is going to sit there and let you demonstrate like some pre choreographed so-called ultimate technique. It doesn't work. It doesn't.
That's such a bummer. That's the kind of fight I want to be in, that pre-choreographed, where I don't get hurt.
Those are the best.
I mean, you can do that. You can do that, and I've written some, but it's in many cases this is like it's almost like this practice duel, from back in the day, where they had these elaborate duels with rapiers and short swords and daggers and swords and this and that, and they were showing off. It was well choreographed, and they were showing off. So yes, you can most definitely have this. But it's even when they were showing off, they were wearing like these doublets, this like thick padded thing, protection, so they wouldn't stab their vitals by accident.
Yeah.
Because these things are like, even though people say, oh yeah, it's a rapier, it's just pointy, no, it's not just pointy, it has a sharp end. You can chop your fingers off, or like even you can chop your entire hand with it. And later I had like some very limited very limited sword training, which was like barely a couple months. Even like I learned almost nothing, but the most important thing that I learned was that there is a huge difference between the movie sword choreography and the real fighting, because it's two entire different things. I didn't learn anything else, but that was the most important thing, because in movie choreography you have these, like, they're not aiming to hit each other, they're hitting their swords because it's beautiful and it's dramatic.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it. And so when I'm writing fights, it doesn't matter if it's fantasy or like with magic, with swords, or in sci-fi or science fantasy. I always make sure to have this the element of pain, because even when you are successful with your attacks, you will suffer pain, even though you have like advanced armor and this and that technology. No, it's not just like clap your hands and you're coming out squeaky clean after that. No, you're going to bleed, or if not bleeding, you're going to be in pain, in some kind of pain.
I think that's actually a really important point with this, because when we talk about whether it's climbing our mountains as personal mountains or anything like that, we have, when we've been through those struggles, or we've been through those fights, when we've been through actual real conflicts, that's the way you can tell when a person has actually been through it. It's the reason that military fiction is so popular when it's written especially by veterans, because they know exactly what it feels, the recoil of the rifle, or getting hurt by a burning piece of brass. It's like, brass gets hot, it'll burn you. And so knowing those things, that little bit of pain and how it blows back on you, and the feeling of when your rifle jams or something like that, or getting your thumb stuck in a garand, which leads to very bad things. There's so many things that can happen where the pain actually teaches you something, and it becomes a stamp of authenticity. It's not just the things that go right, it's the things that go wrong that make something feel authentic. It's something that actually creates that moment where you can say, here's the stamp. That person knew exactly what they were doing. And when we talk about with fights that look choreographed, the reason they look is choreographed is because they're there to make us happy or to look at something, but it's not a real fight usually doesn't have a lot of beauty to it. Now, this is something that Bruce Lee talked about when he was talking about martial arts, and he talked about how that so many things devolve into a dance. I'm going to make this move, and then you will make that move. I'm going to make this move next, and then you will make another move next. And having studied Ishinryu and Taekwondo and Wing Chun, they all have a kata. It's designed to help you learn how to make those moves, the blocking moves, things like that. But it doesn't do you any good if you stay connected to the kata. At some point, you have to break free, and you have to actually have an no holds barred fight with someone who's willing to just take a swing at you, that they don't follow the pattern and they don't follow the rules. And you have to be able to break free and say that this is a brutal move, and I'm going to do it because it's going to be effective. A true fighter knows how to make those brutal moves in the fastest, most expedient way possible, not flashy, usually. Flash is done to intimidate the next opponent. And next opponents usually only happen when you're in a tournament or in a controlled environment. Fights are actually brutal. They happen all at once. You're right. Usually there's a crowd running at you, and it is very hard to deal with more than 2 to 3 attackers. It can be done. There are people who know how to do it. It usually involves picking up a chair or a large object and holding it up so that way it takes out other people. But then you've been weighed down because you're taking time to reach over and grab something. Each time that we go through something like that, that we have a terrible event occur, we get attacked or we get jumped or something else, it helps us write our scenes better. It helps us learn something. And it's a horrible thing for it to happen to us. It always is. But it makes us write more true to the characters and the events that are taking place. And I think a lot of us, we've learned how to sort of block out those moments. Like, for instance, when you guys are talking about somebody jumping you. And I just said in chat that we really need to have a day where all we talk about is fights we've been in and stuff we've done, like crazy things and what happens when you do it. But those moments, a lot of us have learned how to sort of, we push it back. We stop it from coming forward. We don't want to think about that terrible thing that happened or the guilt we feel or the pain that we went through. And as a result, we don't tap into it. Going back and writing about it not only is therapy, it's catharsis, but it also helps us to unleash that authenticity into the fight scenes that we make or the events that we write about. And I love it when you said, I said it happens all at once. It's not, there's no waiting for the next turn. It's very difficult to write. And in Watcher the Damned, one of the things I really tapped into is because my father taught me this also. You don't get a chance to make a movie. There are certain things that happen, and if you learn how to respond quickly and block, that's better than waiting to try to disarm somebody or do something else you want to block first and then make an aggressive move. And when he taught me that, it was like learning that things happen quickly, especially in life or death situations, that it's not drawn out and fancy and you're walking backwards up the stairs. There might be a time when you're walking backwards up the stairs, but it's not going to look pretty. There's a lot of blood involved. There's a lot of gore. There's things that are going to happen. And if you don't do the right things, you're probably going to die. And so knowing that and knowing how quickly that it's supposed to happen, it changed the way I wrote fight scenes. So when the Watcher's in a fight where it's to the death, it happens as quickly and as efficiently as he can make it happen. And the flash and stuff that I'd love to write in where he takes a flying tiger kick and spins through the air, I already know that that's not the effect he's wanting to make. He's wanting to make a quick inside move that takes his opponent out quickly, either with a back fist to the temple, which usually will knock out an opponent if you get in the right place, or a knife hand to the Adam's apple, which will actually push that and actually take an opponent out usually pretty quickly. But once again, these are things that are very fast. They don't take forever. They don't make a fancy fight. So the challenge for me as a writer then is when I'm learning those things, that there's things that are fast and painful and go quickly. How do you write that where it's still interesting to your reader instead of, and he took him out?
Yeah.
Because like,
Yeah.
Uh,
And
Yeah,
that is where knowing what it feels like to be punched comes in handy, because say your adversary does 2 swift moves and then you defeat it. You can, if you know what those moves specifically feel like, what's your character's processing, mentally speaking, bearing the pain, or maybe they can't even get over the pain to have a real thought process at all, that it's that pain that's just so overwhelming. All of that brings that quick fight sequence to life in a way that I think those much more drawn out ones really have a harder time doing. But beyond that, one thing I was processing that Black Knight said early on was that essentially, like, he brought in impact damage. Like, people don't know what it's like to hit the ground. It's a very deadly thing. You can you hit your head, you can hurt your neck. I ride a motorcycle, and one thing I often did was study impact damage, and that helped me spend about like 3 weeks choosing the right type of jacket and gloves and helmet to wear while I'm writing, because all of it, plays its part to absorb that impact damage. And it's good to know what that looks like when you don't have it on. So one thing that was rushing through my mind weeks ago was something that is often criticized, particularly in the realm of script writing, and that is characters with plot armor on. That a character with plot armor kind of deflates a thrilling sequence because they're going to get out of there alive. But I thought about it for a while, and I thought, how hard would it be to be one of those writers when the thrills have to come from the mystery of how they're going to get out alive rather than them actually getting out alive. So a practice I thought for myself was, let's say you have a character, he's in a chair, he's got a bomb strapped to his chest that's about to go off in 5 minutes, and then he has someone behind him with a gun aimed at his head that's threatening to kill him immediately. How does that plot armor, get that character out of there? And that's where the experience of being in a fight comes in. That's where the experience of having critical conversations comes in. That's where knowing how to deflate a situation while using words or minimal activity, or as you were saying earlier, just getting straight to the end point and not having a drawn out fight come into play. And I think when it comes to writing characters with plot armor, which is something I haven't done, but think I'm going to explore in the future, obtaining either that information or experience is beyond vital and necessary, because if you don't know the intricate portions of these things, you're creating a puzzle that becomes even greater to overcome or create, because the puzzle essentially is everyone knows they're going to make it out alive. How do you keep it thrilling?
Yeah.
There are so many times too where I have a character in that situation and I'm like riding along really fast. Everything's going well. He's got the bomb strapped to his chest, and then I have to stop and go do the research and figure out how he's actually going to get out of that. And, it takes me, a day, a week to figure it out. But in the story, it happens like in the next scene. It always cracks me up. It's like, nope, in real life, it takes some time to think about this.
Yeah, really. And sometimes we don't get that. That's when death occurs. It's like, whoops.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then-
When you let's say someone throws a grenade at you, and you're just like, oh, but what would that, like, what would the different grenades do? How would they explode? And how exactly, like, how long does it take to for this to happen? Because in many movies, you like, they just crouch and grab the grenade and throw it back, which, I mean, you could do it, but in most cases, the soldiers who are throwing the grenades at you, they had training, they know how long it takes, they know how dangerous it is to, let's say, quote unquote, cook the grenade. In some cases, like, there is, depending on the manufacturer or how old it is, the detonator, you could have a difference of 2 seconds, which is insane. I mean, 2 seconds, yeah, you think that, oh yes, I'm going to pull the pin, open my fingers, which will unleash the spring, and then the detonator is going to begin its job. It's going to start working, actually, burning, and you think, yeah, it will take like six seconds before detonation, or let's say 10 seconds before detonation. But let's say the grenade is old, or like the primer is defective, and it doesn't take 10 seconds, it doesn't take 6, it takes 3.
Wow.
And in this current war that they have in the Ukraine, I've heard that most soldiers, they're just like throwing the grenades. Like they're pulling the pin and they're throwing the grenades. They don't like unleash the spring. They just throw the grenades. They don't care. They just throw a shitload of them, like 5 or 6. And they like, I've seen videos how like the enemy just grabs the grenade from the bottom of the trench and throws it back. But this is insanely ballsy move. Like, you would do that only if you do not have anywhere to escape to, like run away, because the grenade, it's not like it like does not explode in a fiery ball. This is Hollywood special effects. It actually, there is a poof, and you drop down perforated by shrapnel, or some of your inner organs rupture, and you eventually die from internal bleeding, because there is the shell shock of the explosion. And it's even worse if you're in a confined space, like a small pillbox. And that's why the grenades were created. They were created to defeat pillboxes and trenches, enemies in trenches. That's why they were created. And of course, like other entrenched positions. But apart from this, I mean, oh boy, these fights. And even if your characters if you have plot armor, like James mentioned, the whole puzzle of how they would escape the bomb being strapped to their chest, and the goon pointing their gun at the back of their heads. Well, yeah, that's probably the most exciting thing. And you can, like, I've done that, and I've had feedback from many readers who actually like it, is that I sprinkle some clues, and give like little bits of foreshadowing, or I would mention certain things, like certain little things about the characters, and then the reader eventually would, like, they would piece the clues together, and they would have like the idea in their mind how would a certain character, because all characters are different, and they have different skills and abilities, so, and equipment, of course, how would they deal with a certain deadly situation. And this is perhaps one of the best things for a reader, when he or she could actually climb into the mind of the author for a little bit and guess, use their own imagination to imagine what the author might have imagined, and this is, it's supremely satisfying when if they actually guess it. And I'm always happy when a reader does that.
Awesome. One of the things that I think you just mentioned that I actually really fascinated by, the part where you said, that they have plot armor, so you have to like try to find a way around that, because yes, if your character dies, the chances are your book ends right there. And there are times when that happens, the book keeps on going, but then it's actually about another character. But I find that one of the things we don't write in it very much is mistakes that the hero makes. I actually like making a mistake, like making a stupid decision. Just making a decision off the cuff, and it turns out to be the absolute worst decision they could make. And they have to discuss it at that point. They can't just go and do something stupid and live. But you have to be able to take your characters, I think, even as we do, through a mistake that's made at the spur of the moment, at the most inopportune time, because that's life. Now, you can have a character that does most everything pretty much right, almost 90% of the time, and he or she is going to, survive and do okay. But it's the mistakes we make that we learn from. And if we're honest about our characters, they probably aren't 900 years old and have all the experience to keep them alive. And isn't it so unfair that by the time you get to be like super experienced, that you're actually like really old, like Black Knight was saying. And so we end up having this character that's, you know, a young man, or at least, you know, relatively young in his own experience, who doesn't have a lot of experience, and yet he's always making all the right decisions every time. He doesn't just do something stupid, except when it comes down to love or something like that. But actually making a mistake, breaking a finger, that happens when you were talking about a fight. When you've actually been in a fight, you can break your finger if you don't hit, if the punch doesn't land right, if you don't have your hand properly clenched, if you're not supporting your, you know, the how you're slapping somebody or doing something, you can break your hand. And you actually have situations in fights where if a person gets harmed or gets injured, that it's usually because of a mistake they made, or just the wrong move at the wrong time, and they get caught. How do they deal with that? How do they actually work their way around it? It makes things more thrilling if you don't have a character that just simply cruises through life or cruises through a fight, but instead they come to a place and they will make a decision that they find out was absolutely the wrong choice. How did they recover from that? How do they keep on going? And it helps the story advance in ways that are, I think that if you have simply that perfect character who's never going to make a mistake, uh, it helps the story advance in such a way that it does make it not just realistic but more entertaining. Actually, everybody's been through that. We've all been through it. Where I'm not sure, you know, waking up in Vegas and who am I married to? I don't think that one's happened to everyone. No, it's a great story. You know, it's like, but the part where, oh, it really didn't work out, you know, something, you know, things, mistakes were made, you know, and lessons were learned. Um, People make mistakes, and
Oh
I've
yeah.
all done it. And as a result, when you allow your character to think through it, you're giving your character a chance to not only go down a different path, but you're also allowing them to learn something that they can use later in the story, where they actually do it right the second time. Maybe they're not like us and they don't make the same stupid mistake over and over again. Maybe they actually learn from it and do something different. And that's an exciting moment when,
They do make mistakes. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and they have to be able to talk about it too. Is it can be distressing to some readers, and I found this out, that if your character, your hero, does something wrong, that it can actually be scary to them, because they want the hero to always be right. And our readers are reading our books for different reasons. Some people literally want to be rescued by your hero, and they want to know that he's going to do it the right way. And that's why we have different kinds of genres and different kind of books. The superheroes usually do come in, no matter what, they're going to be able to save the people. That's their plot armor. It's their personal drama that makes it interesting. But Superman's usually, almost always, unless he has kryptonite, he's going to always be able to defeat something. But when it's our readers, my readers for the most part, the ones who have embraced Watcher the Dam the most, are the ones that actually have made the mistakes that the Watcher has made. They understand why he's making a stupid decision, because he's basing it off of an emotion or a suppressed memory that he doesn't want to deal with. And they embrace that character. So I think we can't write our heroes for everyone. We can't write them to make everybody happy. But if we're writing from that position of pain, then there are going to be readers that absolutely embrace it. And part of that pain is realizing our mistakes. And the best way to make that character survive those mistakes is for them to somehow push through that moment, face it head on, and they don't have to grow as a person. I'm not going to say that, because that's usually the kiss of death. As soon as we hear that, it's like, he's going to grow as a person. He's going to do these things. A lot of people actually shut off that point. They want your hero to be fun. And so he has to remain fun. He has to be able to look at this with a sense of humor sometimes, or she does. But they have to be able to face that and move forward. And so far, it hasn't hurt Watcher the Damned any that the Watcher is a flawed hero, sometimes makes mistakes, because he does learn from them. He's not simply being dumb. He's trying to get better, and he does. And I think that has been actually a selling point for Watcher the Damned. And it was based in part on things that I've experienced and lived. And I think that once we do that, there's actually comes a forgiveness for us when we look back on that one thing that, you know what I'm talking about right now. Shh, don't say it on the air. It's not, you don't have to say it here. That one thing that you did that you thought, man, that was really stupid. Now you can make it have a benefit, not for just for you, but for everyone. You're going to be an example of what not to do, and you're going to teach other people how to not do it.
Yeah, and when your characters make mistakes, it's also a great point to introduce their integrity and like showcase their integrity or lack thereof. So those moments can be really great sort of character turning points. But Nick, you have a question. What are some of the adversities that your characters go through and some of the struggles, and what inspired those?
Yeah, so the dedication of Taming of the Fire Sword is actually, it says, to those of you who know you have it in you, you do. So I really just wanted people to take away from this story that the power is inside you. So basically, it's about a general, and he has kind of been disillusioned by this war that he had to fight. So he ran away and he's living on this desert planet, and he encounters this woman who is from this race of the people that he fought against in the war. So his mortal enemy, but they have to team up and save the galaxy. And of course, there's a lot of prejudice that's happening there that they have to get over to find out that, hey, we're actually very similar and we can fight this battle and win. And of course, it's a romance too, because I always have to have a romantic subplot.
Oh, very fun. Yeah, that's what I love about science fiction is it's really like a very all-encapsulating genre. And I think you can really just explore a lot of different, even deeper ideas with that particular one. How has writing science fiction been for you so far? How's your journey?
It's been fun. I think writing fight scenes, we've been talking about that a lot. I think fight scenes are really difficult. It takes me a long time to write a good fight scene because you want to make it entertaining and fun, but also realistic. So I find I spend the most time on that. Writing dialogue, I find really fun. So that's like a breeze. I love doing that. But
oh yeah.
Yes, fight scenes, particularly the physical ones, when somebody doesn't just have a gun in their hand and they pull the trigger, but they grab each other, they push each other up against the walls and stuff. Yes, those ones. I have a very similar issue, less so in the like sort of how it would occur or the experience thereof, because luckily, like I said, I've been in a few fights, but like bringing it to life without telling so much as showing, adding in the sounds and the feel of the pain and the grunts of these two adversaries, and try to slip in a bit of dialogue here and there without making it sound too poetic or wax poetic along the side of this otherwise brutal fight.
Because usually when you're fighting, it's actually trash talk at that point. It's literally trying to demoralize your opponent. And unless you're really trying to get somewhere with it. We touched on this last week in They Live, where they have that fantastic fight scene, the world's longest fight scene or whatever. And one of the greatest fight scenes ever written, because it's absolutely brutal. And they just trash talk all the way through it with Roddy Piper and I forgot who it was fighting. Yeah, and it's such a fantastic way to, because it really does. That is sort of how it goes. It's just people cussing and chunking each other around, and at the same time, it's a choreographed fight, but it's very realistic and it's very painful to watch, and I love it. And getting back to that you have, like I said, with injury, with anything else in these fights, and we come down to the aftermath. Now, aftermath is part of this climbing struggle, as we talk about climbing your mountain. Because most of us, we can handle the battle. If we survive, we can handle the battle. That's not the problem for us. It's the aftermath. It's the broken bones or the broken hearts or the everything else that comes with it. It's the injury that's never going to go away.
And the broken soul.
The scars that don't heal without
PTSD.
PTSD is a very real thing. My family is. We've been blessed with warriors in my family, and that means that I grew up with PTSD in my family, and we still have warriors in my family today who are dealing with PTSD. Those wounds that can't be seen, the scars that won't ever heal because there's regret there and there's fear. There's the idea that I made a mistake. I did this thing and now it's affecting me forever. It's not going to go away. It's not going to change. how do we deal with aftermath in our stories is just as important as how we deal with aftermath in our lives. And part of the struggle for our characters is so many times we write a scene and then we realize, gee, if this really happened in real life, it would change this person's life forever. And so many times we just let them heal up. They get well, they bind themselves up and they get well. And there are people that miraculously heal of stuff. I mean, I've met them. But for most of us, there's a scar. And whether it's a broken heart or a broken soul or a broken body, there's an aftermath to be dealt with. How do y'all deal with that in your book? How do you put that out there? And how does it reflect your journey?
Well, I think you've read the intro book for the series. Yeah. And you know that one of my titular characters, Lily, she suffers really bad from PTSD, among other things, but she's perhaps like the hardest hit because it wasn't her intent to become a soldier. She was pushed into this against her will. I mean, she knew how to defend herself, but that wasn't on her list of things to do, like getting invaded. And this will not go away. It is partially ameliorated by her friends, her good friends, who help with like not healing the PTSD, but like managing it. And she has become like she trained her mind to better resist it, but it's still there. It's not going to go away just like magically, even though they have superior medical technology, they have this and that, they even have telepaths, but even the telepaths cannot help you fully delete the PTSD. It's impossible. They can help you strengthen your mind, and still your heart, so you can manage it. You can better fight it. And it's like the PTSD, because it never goes away, you have to fight against it every night when you close your eyes. When you shut your eyes, you have to fight it. And in most cases, you fight it subconsciously. You're fighting it in your dreams. But yes, it is a great way to show that different level of pain, this like mental, even spiritual pain, which our characters suffer following a battle, or just the trials and tribulations of their lives. Let's say, for example, the main telepath character, Boris, and his wife Kara would suffered for over a decade, enslaved. One was used for medical experiments, Kara, and Boris was like sent to the hellhole of a uranium mine, where he somehow survived. And but this broke him several times, because usually humans in the alternate universe of alternate history universe of Star Shattered, they are quite different than us, even though they are still human. In like most cases, they will not allow themselves to be captured and enslaved. They would rather kill themselves. This is perhaps one of the main reasons why most slavers, they avoid Terran space like it's the playground from hell. They just it's useless. They would come here, everyone is armed, everyone is trained, they will fight them to the death. They will take losses, and pirates and criminals, they don't they love their life like perhaps more than the average person. But Boris, his first fail was not killing himself before he was captured, and that broke him more than perhaps losing his parents. And eventually, year after year after year, having to survive in this uranium mine where like you fight over scraps of food, you're not given medication, you're just like survive if you can and work, fulfill your quotas. If you can't survive, we'll just replace you with another free slave with cheap labor. And this constant breaking changed his character completely, and he's perhaps one of the most brutal among the entire crew. Even though he has like his keeper, which is his wife, who but she's actually balancing his inner rage, and he's no longer completely good. He has like yeah, but that's going into spoiler territory. That's you understand what I meant.
Yeah, having those long-lasting effects after the battle really bring in the stakes of it all. That's for sure. But we'll be wrapping up soon, so why don't we go ahead and get everyone's final thoughts and where people can find you. Nikki, what are some of your final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I just want to say that if you're out there and you're struggling with your book, don't give up on it. Keep going, because the way to survive is it's such an internal thing, and it has to do with keeping your mind positive. And I think one way to do that is through keeping your imagination active. And if you're working on that book or you're reading a lot of books, it's going to help you with that. So don't give up, because we all need to feed our imagination, and we need your book. And you can find me. I'm on X. I'm on Substack. And I've got my podcast that I just started, which is Stories Like That on YouTube. And thanks for having me, you guys. You're so smart. I learned a lot from you.
Yeah, well, thanks for putting up with us.
Yeah,
I know
Sweet.
we're rambling creatures.
During our rants.
Yeah, but R.H Snow, final thoughts, where we can find you.
I love this conversation because each of us had something to share about our own journeys, about our own books, and how we're dealing with it. And some struggles seem little, but they're not little when you're going through it. It's hard to be us in our own skin. We have our own challenges. We have our own mountain that we have to climb. And never underestimate your mountain. And never trade it for someone else's. It's your mountain. Climb it. Conquer it. You can do it. There's nothing that's been given to you that you cannot somehow overcome or go through it. And you will come out the other side a victor. And I mean that sincerely with all my heart, because I've been there. There are some places where we go, and Gran was talking about it in chat, about a grief that never ends, a pain that you wake up and it's still there. You're going to live. You're going to make it. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but you're going to make it, because we all are in this together as humans. We are creatures of grief and sorrow and love and hope and joy. And grief is just a memory of love. It proves that what you felt was actually real, and it was forever. And our bodies are like that too. The scars that we have remind us of the battles that we lived through. And when the end finally comes and the shadows close around, you're a winner. You fought that good fight and you made it. We're all here in this place and this time. We're going to face struggle and grief and death. And we're also going to overcome, because God is a God of miracles. And we are eternal in love. Never forget that's who you are. Never forget that's what you need to be. You have the power to be the hero in your own story, and you can climb this mountain. I believe in you. I'm R.H Snow. You can find me at watcherofthedamned.com, where I'm selling my series, Watcher of the Damned, a story about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness after pandemic world's end, and about overcoming, whether it's addiction, heartache, grief, or just the world in general. It'll be in Watcher of the Damned, and I encourage you to come and read it with me. Until then, next week, I love you. You're going to make it.
Super awesome. Black Knight, final thoughts where we can find you, buddy.
Well, I believe that if we can, as authors, if we can write a compelling story and relatable characters, they don't have to perfectly represent certain demographics. They have to be relatable. They have to help people feel their struggles, and if we can do that, if we can inspire them to improve their lives, or like overcome certain struggles, which everyone has to. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you live. You have your own struggles, like Snow said. Like, you have your own mountain. You have to climb it. You have to defeat it. And for some, it's another mountain every day. For others, it's like a little bit of a gentle slope, but it's suddenly they suddenly bump into like a steep rocky wall in their life. So yes, this is our job. We are basically moral officers, and we do not have to discourage our readers. We have to inspire them. So yes, you can find me on Substack, blackknightsubstack.com. You can also grab my books on Amazon. The Star Shutter series, 7 books out so far out of 10. The 8th is in the working. Then you have my 2 anthologies, 2 short story collections, A Mandate of Sword and Railgun, and the second one is the Blood of Tyrants, and of course my brand new fantasy, 100% fantasy book, Lord of Bones, plus my 2 novellas about 2 Conan-esque sci-fi novellas about Velen the Authorian, which you can also find on Amazon. And yes, basically that's it. I'm not an ex.
Awesome. And I'm James Esparza, talking sandwich over here that writes short stories. But I would say this: if you want to become a writer, go out there and start writing. Consume, live, find your favorite forms of media, ask yourself why you like them, dissect the type of stuff that attracts you. Because all that will help you find your own voice. That's one thing I struggled with early on, is finding my own voice, my own writing identity, if you would. I was always pulling from various authors because I was a bit insecure about my own writing. Still am to a large degree. I just care a lot less. And I would just kind of, find myself pulling from their writing styles and implementing into my own, and it really didn't work that well. It became roadblocks in themselves, but they also kind of helped me along the way find my own voice, find my own writing style. And a lot of that also came with the experiences of life. I often find that my writing, no matter how whimsical it is, always has a touch of darkness due to the various experiences of my life. And it's good to identify these things. So if you want to be a writer, find out who you are, as much about yourself as possible. Find out what you like, what you hate, what your little peccadillos are, and then go out there, live, consume, and then write, because that's another thing, is when we write so much, sometimes we forget to inspire ourselves, and that does come from consuming different forms of media. It doesn't always have to be literature, though literature, I would say, is definitely one that is a must to begin with for all writers, to understand literature more, to understand these authors you surround yourself by, to help understand yourself. Go out there, people. Often I've read a lot of stuff that felt more like it was picked up, more like the idea came from something somebody's watched off of television rather than they've actually experienced themselves. But if you want to go ahead and find out where you could find my own literature and my sloppy mess I call literature, you can check it out at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com, where I'll be releasing 2 short stories a month, and I will release them early, 1 week early, for my premium subscribers, along with some like extra artwork and things of that nature. And I am also working on getting every one of my short stories turned into a dramatized audio format. I do all the sound effects myself, so you guys can know that I'm working on the sound effects, and there's zero AI in the audio whatsoever. I'm paying a lovely Frenchman some money to speak into a can for me, so I can go ahead and add all the lovely sound effects in the background. Find that at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Nikki, for joining us. And come back next week. If you're watching this on the replay, leave a subscription. Hit the subscription button, leave a comment, leave a like, and join us again. Bye-bye, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Arrivederci. Francois. Bye-bye now.